The transport shuttle shook as it passed through the magnetic field surrounding the Calderian Institute of Strategic Excellence. Emma Cole gripped the armrest and watched through the small window as the academy came into view. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Giant towers of crystal and metal floated in perfect formation around a dying red star. Bridges of light connected the structures. Ships from 100 different worlds moved between the buildings like fish swimming through water. For 3,000 years, this place had trained the greatest minds in the galaxy. Admirals, scientists, diplomats, and warriors had walked these halls. They came from over 200 different species. They spoke languages that humans could not even hear. They lived for centuries and carried the knowledge of ancient civilizations in their minds. No human had ever been admitted. Until now. Emma stood up as the shuttle docked. She was 20 years old, with short brown hair and gray eyes that seemed older than her face. She wore simple clothes and carried a worn bag over her shoulder. Nothing about her appearance suggested anything special. She looked like exactly what her records claimed she was, an orphan from a small mining colony at the edge of human space. The airlock opened with a hiss. Emma stepped onto the station and felt the artificial gravity pull at her bones. It was slightly stronger than Earth standard. Her body adjusted within seconds, though it should have taken hours. A tall alien stood waiting for her. He had blue skin, 4 eyes, and a uniform covered in medals. His name was Instructor Corval, and his job was to welcome new students. He did not look welcoming. "You are the human," he said. His voice was flat. "Emma Cole," she replied. "Thank you for having me." Corval made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The council voted to admit you. I did not vote in favor. Humans are not ready for this institution." Emma said nothing. She simply nodded and followed him through the corridors. The other students watched her pass. There were beings of every shape and size. Some floated through the air. Some had bodies made of living crystal. Some looked almost human but with subtle differences that made them seem strange. All of them stared at Emma with the same expression. Curiosity mixed with contempt. She heard their whispers. Her translator device picked up fragments of conversation. "That is the human? She looks so fragile. A political move. Nothing more. She will fail within a month. Primitive species. They still fight wars with projectile weapons." Emma kept walking. Her face showed nothing. Corval brought her to her assigned quarters. The room was small but clean. 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 storage units. Her roommate was already there. The alien was called Shvara. She belonged to the Veltraxian species, known throughout the galaxy for their strength and their pride. She stood 7 feet tall and had 4 muscular arms. Her skin was a deep purple, and her eyes were solid black. When she saw Emma enter, she made a noise of disgust. "They put me with the human," Shvara said to Corval. "Is this a punishment?" "It is your assignment," Corval replied. "Make the best of it." He left without another word. The door closed behind him. Shvara turned to Emma. "Stay on your side of the room. Do not touch my things. Do not speak to me unless necessary. We are not friends. We will never be friends. Is that clear?" "Very clear," Emma said calmly. She set her bag on the empty bed and began unpacking. Shvara watched her for a moment, then turned away with a grunt. The first week at the academy was difficult. Classes were taught at a level far beyond human education. The other students had been preparing for this place since childhood. They knew subjects that humanity had not yet discovered. Emma sat in lectures about faster-than-light physics, galactic law, multi-species psychology, and military strategy spanning 10,000 years of history. She took notes. She asked no questions. She drew no attention to herself, but attention found her anyway. In the third week, a group of senior students gathered in the main hall to work on a navigational puzzle. It was famous throughout the academy. A holographic map showed a region of space filled with gravity wells, radiation storms, and hostile territories. The goal was to find a safe path through. Senior students had been attempting it for months without success. Emma walked past on her way to the library. She stopped to watch. The students argued about trajectories and fuel consumption. They ran calculations that filled entire screens. None of their solutions worked. The simulation always ended with the ship destroyed. Emma studied the map. Her eyes moved across the hologram, tracking patterns that others seemed to miss. After 3 minutes, she spoke. "You are thinking in 2 dimensions," she said quietly. The students turned to look at her. A Caldarian male with silver skin stepped forward. His name was Torek, and he was the top student in the navigation program. "Excuse me? The safe path is not horizontal," Emma explained. "You need to go vertical. Drop below the galactic plane, pass under the gravity wells, then rise again on the other side. The radiation is weaker at lower altitudes. Your ship will survive." Torek stared at her. Then he turned to the hologram and entered the new coordinates. The simulation ran. The ship dropped below the plane, curved around the obstacles, and emerged safely on the other side. The puzzle was solved. The hall fell silent. "How did you see that?" Torek demanded. "How did a first-year human solve what we could not?" Emma shrugged. "Lucky guess," she said. Then she walked away, but she felt their eyes on her back. She felt the weight of their suspicion. That night, Shvara watched Emma from across the room. The human was sitting at her desk, reading a text on advanced shield harmonics. Her eyes moved across the page at impossible speed, and she never seemed to sleep. Shvara had woken several times in the night and found Emma still awake, still reading, still perfectly alert. No human should be able to function without rest. It was one of their many weaknesses. Yet this one seemed to have no weaknesses at all. In the intelligence division of the Academy, Commander Kethril reviewed the footage from the main hall. He played the moment when the human girl solved the puzzle again and again. Her eyes had tracked the hologram with precision that suggested military training. Her posture was too controlled. Her reactions were too fast. He opened a secure channel to the Galactic Council and began typing his report. Subject Emma Cole requires further observation. Recommend increased surveillance. This human is hiding something significant. Will advise when more information is available. He sent the message and leaned back in his chair. Somewhere in the Academy, a girl who was not what she seemed continued reading about shield harmonics, and the galaxy began to take notice. The announcement came on the morning of the 5th week. All first-year students were required to report to the simulation chamber for their first major trial. Emma read the message on her screen and felt something cold settle in her stomach. She knew what was coming. The siege trial was legendary. Every student at the Academy feared it. The simulation placed teams on a planet under attack. They had to survive for 12 hours against overwhelming enemy forces. The test was designed to break weaker students and reveal true leaders. Most teams failed. The Academy expected this. Failure taught valuable lessons. Emma arrived at the simulation chamber with 200 other first-year students. The room was massive, filled with pods that would connect their minds to the virtual battlefield. Instructors moved between the rows, assigning teams at random. When Emma saw her team assignment, she understood immediately. This was not random. Someone had arranged this. Her team consisted of 5 aliens who had made their hatred of humans very clear. Torek, the Caldarian she had embarrassed with the navigation puzzle, was the team leader. The others were his friends, a Veltraxian warrior named Cross, 2 insectoid Hivari twins, and a telepathic Mindari, who called herself Yeva. They gathered in their designated area. Torek looked at Emma with cold eyes. "Here is the plan," he said. "We need someone to draw enemy fire while the rest of us establish a defensive position. The human will serve this purpose." "You want to use me as bait," Emma said. "I want to use you as you deserve to be used. You do not belong here. If you survive, consider it a gift. If you do not, the Academy will be better for your absence." The others laughed. Yeva, the telepath, reached toward Emma's mind and found nothing but smooth walls. Her smile faded slightly. Emma said nothing. She simply nodded and walked to her pod. The simulation began. Emma opened her eyes on a gray world under a red sky. Smoke rose from burning buildings in the distance. The sound of explosions echoed across the landscape. Her team stood around her, already moving toward a ruined structure that would serve as their base. Go north, Torek ordered her. Make noise. Draw them toward you. We will handle the rest. We will handle the rest. We will handle the rest. All rest. We will handle the 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 rest. Emma turned and walked north. For the first hour, she did exactly as ordered. She moved through the rubble, letting herself be seen by enemy scouts. Laser fire streaked past her head. She ran, ducked, hid, and ran again. The enemy forces followed her, just as Torek had planned. But Emma was also watching. Counting. Learning. The enemy had 3 main attack groups. They communicated through radio signals that the simulation faithfully recreated. Their commander was cautious, sending scouts before committing larger forces. Their weapons were powerful but slow to recharge. In the second hour, everything changed. A massive enemy force surrounded Torek's position. His defensive strategy had failed. The team was pinned down, taking heavy fire from 3 directions. Through the communication link, Emma heard them shouting at each other in panic. We need to retreat. There is nowhere to go. Where is the human? She was supposed to keep them busy. Emma made a decision. She stopped running and began hunting. She moved through the battlefield like smoke. The enemy scouts never saw her coming. She took their weapons, disabled their communications, and vanished before reinforcements arrived. Within 30 minutes, she had created a gap in the enemy line. Then she called her team. Torek. There is an opening to the west. Move now. Who do you think you are to give me orders? Someone who is trying to save your life. Move now or die. Your choice. There was silence on the channel. Then Torek's voice came back, quieter than before. We are moving. Emma guided them through the gap. But she did not stop there. As the enemy scrambled to respond, she began giving orders that should have been impossible for a first-year student to know. Cross, take the high ground on that ridge. Your weapon has better range than the others. Yeva, can you sense their commander? Yes. He is in the structure to the south. Good. Tell me when he moves. Hivari twins, you are fastest. I need you to circle behind their eastern group. Do not engage. Just make them think an attack is coming from that direction. Why would we listen to you? Because my plan will work. Trust me or do not. But decide quickly. They decided to trust her. The battle turned. Emma used tactics that no one at the academy had ever seen. She did not fight the enemy directly. She made them fight themselves. She created confusion, false signals, phantom attacks. The enemy commander sent his forces chasing shadows while Emma's team picked them apart piece by piece. By the 6th hour, the enemy was in full retreat. By the 10th hour, Emma's team had captured the enemy command post. By the 12th hour, when the simulation ended, they had not only survived but achieved complete victory. The pods opened. Emma climbed out and found the entire observation deck staring at her in silence. Professor Vin stood at the front. He was ancient, even by galactic standards. His species had been training warriors since before humans discovered fire. His body was withered and frail, but his eyes were sharp. Come with me, he said to Emma. She followed him to a private room. He closed the door and studied her for a long moment. Those tactics, he said slowly, they are not taught at this academy. They are not taught anywhere in the known galaxy. I have lived for 8,000 years, and I have seen similar methods only once before. Emma waited. They were used by a species that no longer exists. They called themselves the architects. They vanished before your world had life. Their knowledge was supposed to be lost forever. He leaned forward. Where did you learn to fight like that, human? Emma met his gaze. I learned to survive, she said. Humans are good at surviving. It was not an answer. They both knew it. Vine let her go, but his eyes followed her as she left. In the hallway, someone was waiting for her. A young human man with messy dark hair and a friendly smile. His name was Ben Torres, and he was one of the only other humans at the academy. Unlike Emma, he came from a wealthy family of diplomats. He had been admitted through political connections rather than merit. That was incredible, he said, falling into step beside her. Everyone is talking about it. The human girl who won the siege trial on her first try. I had a good team, Emma said. Your team wanted to kill you. I saw the footage. You turned them around completely. He paused. Who are you? Really? Emma looked at him. He seemed honest, open, trustworthy. She decided to give him part of the truth. I am someone who does not want to fight anymore, she said. I came here to learn. That is all. Ben nodded slowly. Okay. But if you ever need a friend, I am here. We humans have to stick together. Right? For the first time since arriving at the academy, Emma smiled. It was small and brief, but it was real. Right, she said. Behind them, in the shadows of the observation deck, Commander Kethral added new notes to his file. The human girl had displayed combat abilities far beyond any training humanity was known to possess. Her psychological profile suggested military conditioning at an early age. She was not an orphan from a mining colony. He was certain of that now. The question was, what was she really? And more importantly, who had sent her here? Rumors spread through the academy like fire. Some students said Emma Cole was a human military experiment, grown in a laboratory and trained since birth to be a weapon. Others claimed she was a spy, sent to steal galactic secrets for her primitive species. A few whispered that she was not human at all, but something else, wearing human skin. The Kaldarian High Council took notice. They could not ignore a potential threat inside their most prestigious institution. They sent an investigator. Her name was Rixana, and she was a Mindari of the highest order. Her telepathic abilities were legendary. She had broken the minds of criminals, traitors, and enemy agents across 100 worlds. No secret had ever survived her touch. She arrived at the academy without warning, dressed in the black robes of a council inquisitor. Students moved out of her way as she walked through the corridors. Even the instructors treated her with careful respect. Emma was called to an interview room on the third day after Rixana's arrival. The room was white and empty except for 2 chairs facing each other. Rixana sat in one of them, her silver eyes fixed on the door. Emma entered and sat down without being asked. You know who I am, Rixana said. It was not a question. Yes. You know why I am here. Yes, Rixana smiled. It was not a kind smile. Most beings show fear when they meet me. You show nothing. That is interesting. Fear is a waste of energy, Emma replied. So is resistance. I am going to look inside your mind now. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. If you do have something to hide, I will find it. Rixana reached out with her mind. For 800 years, she had used this power. She had felt the thoughts of every species in the galaxy. Some minds were like open books. Others were like locked rooms that required force to enter. A few, very rarely, had walls that took time to break. Emma Cole's mind was none of these things. When Rixana touched her consciousness, she found a barrier unlike anything she had experienced. It was not a wall. It was a labyrinth. Every path led nowhere. Every door opened to another door. And at the center, something watched her with cold awareness. Rixana pushed harder. The labyrinth pushed back. Pain exploded behind her eyes. She felt her own mental defenses crumbling. In 800 years, she had never been the one under attack. But now something was reaching into her mind, examining her, learning her weaknesses. She screamed and broke the connection. When her vision cleared, Emma was still sitting calmly in her chair. Her gray eyes had not changed. Her breathing had not quickened. She looked exactly the same as before. Are you finished? Emma asked. Rixana stumbled to her feet. Her hands were shaking. She had to hold the chair to keep from falling. What are you? She whispered. I am a human, Emma said. Just a human. Rixana left the room without another word. Her report to the council was brief and terrifying. The human girl had been trained to resist telepathic intrusion by beings far more powerful than any known species. Her mental conditioning was beyond anything the Mindari had ever encountered. Whoever had created her defenses possessed knowledge that the galaxy had long forgotten. The Council ordered increased surveillance, but they did not move against Emma directly. They were afraid of what they might unleash. For a few weeks, life at the academy returned to something like normal. Emma attended classes, studied in the library, and ate alone in the dining hall. Shvara had become less hostile since the siege trial. She no longer complained about sharing a room with a human. Sometimes, she even said good morning. Ben Torres remained Emma's only real friend. He sought her out between classes, telling jokes and sharing gossip about the other students. He did not ask about her past again. He seemed content to know her as she was now. Then the hollow sun came. The attack began at midnight. Emma was reading in her room when the lights went out. Emergency alarms filled the corridors with red light. Through the window, she saw ships surrounding the academy, their weapons charging. "What is happening?" Shvara demanded, reaching for her uniform. "Terrorists," Emma said. She was already moving, pulling equipment from under her bed. "The Hollow Sun faction. They want the Academy's weapons research. How do you know that?" Emma did not answer. She strapped a small device to her wrist and headed for the door. The Hollow Sun had planned their attack well. They disabled communications first, cutting the Academy off from outside help. Then, they breached the outer sections, flooding the corridors with armed soldiers. The Academy's security forces were overwhelmed within minutes. The terrorists gathered students and instructors in the main assembly hall. They lined them up on their knees and began making demands. Their leader, a scarred alien with dead eyes, announced that he would execute one hostage every hour until the Academy surrendered its research data. He killed the first hostage immediately, to prove he was serious. Emma watched from the shadows of a maintenance tunnel. She had avoided capture by moving through routes that were not on any official map. Her wrist device showed the positions of enemy soldiers throughout the station. 47 hostages, 32 armed terrorists, multiple defensive positions, reinforced armor, military-grade weapons. The numbers were not good. But Emma had faced worse odds before. She began to move. The first terrorist died without seeing her. She came from above, dropping from a ventilation shaft onto his shoulders. His neck snapped before he could cry out. She took his weapon and dragged his body into the darkness. The second terrorist was guarding a corridor. Emma approached from behind a maintenance panel. Her hand covered his mouth. Her blade found the gap in his armor. He fell silently. By the third kill, the enemy knew something was wrong. Their communications filled with panicked reports. Someone was hunting them. Someone fast, silent, and deadly. Emma did not stop. She moved through the station like a ghost. Every encounter was quick and brutal. She used the environment against them, luring soldiers into ambushes, disabling power systems to blind them, creating chaos that made them shoot at shadows. In the assembly hall, the terrorist leader grew nervous. His soldiers were disappearing. His communications were filled with screams that cut off suddenly. He grabbed another hostage, a young Veltraxian student, and pressed a weapon to her head. "Show yourself," he screamed into the empty air. "Face me or I kill this one." The lights went out. When they came back on, Emma was standing 10 feet away. Her clothes were torn. There was blood on her hands, none of it her own. Her gray eyes were absolutely calm. "Let her go," Emma said quietly. The terrorist leader laughed. "You are just a human. What can you do? I have killed 23 of your soldiers in the last hour. I destroyed your communications array, disabled your ships, and sealed every exit from this station. Reinforcements are already on their way. You have nothing left to bargain with. I have hostages. You have witnesses." Emma took a step forward. "Let them go, and I will let you live long enough to stand trial. Keep threatening them, and I will end this now." The terrorist looked into her eyes and saw his death waiting there. He dropped his weapon. Academy security forces breached the hall moments later. They found Emma standing among the hostages, looking tired but unharmed. The terrorist leader was on his knees, his hands behind his head. Around the station, his soldiers lay dead or unconscious. Shvara stared at her roommate with new eyes. She had watched Emma snap an armored soldier's weapon with her bare hands. She had seen her move faster than any human should be able to move. "Who are you?" she whispered. Emma looked at her for a long moment. Then she sat down heavily, as if the weight of everything had finally caught up with her. "I do not know anymore," she said. "I really do not know." In the aftermath, as medical teams treated the wounded and security forces secured the prisoners, Commander Kethral reviewed the station's internal footage. He watched Emma Cole eliminate 26 enemy combatants in 63 minutes. He watched her move through the station with perfect knowledge of its layout. He watched her fight with skills that no human military program could produce. His report to the council was simple. The mask was gone. Whatever Emma Cole truly was, everyone would now want to know. The question was whether the truth would save her or destroy her. They came for her the next morning. Academy security, council investigators, and soldiers from 3 different species surrounded Emma's quarters at dawn. They put energy chains on her wrists and led her through the corridors while students watched in silence. Shvara tried to follow. Ben Torres demanded to know what was happening. Both were pushed back by armed guards. "She saved us," Ben shouted. "She saved everyone. Why are you arresting her?" No one answered him. Emma was taken to a shuttle and transported to the Galactic Council Station, a massive structure at the heart of civilized space. The council chamber was a circular room large enough to hold thousands. Representatives from every major species sat in rising tiers around a central platform. Emma stood on that platform, alone, with chains on her hands. The High Chancellor, an ancient Caldarian with white skin and tired eyes, spoke first. "Emma Cole, you are accused of infiltrating the Caldarian Institute of Strategic Excellence under false identity. You are accused of being an unregistered military asset of the human government. You are accused of espionage, deception, and potential acts of war against the Galactic Union." Emma said nothing. "The evidence against you is significant. Your records were forged. Your abilities far exceed any known human capacity. A council telepath was nearly destroyed, attempting to examine your mind." The Chancellor leaned forward. "How do you plead?" "I plead the truth," Emma said. "I will tell you everything. But first, I ask that you listen with open minds. What I have to say concerns not just me, but my entire species." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Chancellor raised a hand for silence. "Speak then. We will listen." Emma looked around the chamber. Hundreds of alien faces stared back at her. Most showed hostility or suspicion. A few showed curiosity. None showed warmth. She began. "You call humans primitive. You have called us this since we first reached the stars. Our technology is crude compared to yours. Our lifespans are short. Our bodies are fragile. We have been part of the galactic community for only 200 years, while some of your species have histories spanning millions of years." She paused, letting her words settle. "But you do not understand what those 200 years cost us." Emma raised her chained hands. A holographic display activated behind her, showing images that made several council members gasp. "This is the siege of Cygnus Station. 300 human colonists, mostly farmers and miners, held this outpost against a raider fleet for 6 months. They had no military training. Their weapons were tools meant for breaking rocks. The raiders had warships, trained soldiers, and every advantage. The images showed humans building walls from broken machinery, children carrying ammunition, old men and women standing watch with improvised rifles. The colonists won. When rescue ships finally arrived, they found 72 survivors and over 2,000 dead raiders. The humans had turned every corridor into a trap. They had fought with knives when their guns ran empty. They had never stopped, never surrendered, never accepted that they were supposed to lose. The chamber was silent now. "This is the famine decade." New images appeared. Hollow-faced humans in underground bunkers, children eating gray paste from metal containers. When the supply lines to the outer colonies were cut, 9 million humans faced starvation. Our allies in the galactic community offered no help. They said the colonies were not worth saving. Emma's voice hardened. The colonists survived. They ate synthetic compounds that should have been poison. They recycled every drop of water, every scrap of organic matter. Mothers gave their food to their children and died quietly so their families could live. When the supply lines reopened, the population had fallen to 3 million. But 3 million humans walked out of those bunkers alive, and they rebuilt everything they had lost within a generation. She turned to face the Chancellor directly. You want to know who I am? I am a product of human survival. When I was an infant, I was found aboard a derelict warship at the edge of explored space. The ship's origin was unknown. Its technology was beyond anything humans or any other species had ever seen. But somehow, I was the only survivor. The council members leaned forward. The human military took me in. They raised me in a classified program, designed to create soldiers who could stand against any threat. They trained me in combat, strategy, languages, and sciences that most humans will not discover for centuries. They built me to be a weapon. Emma's gray eyes swept across the chamber. But I did not want to be a weapon. I wanted to understand. I wanted to learn, so I forged my records and entered the academy, hoping to find a place where I could be something more than what they made me. She lowered her hands. I am guilty of deception. I am guilty of false identity. But I am not guilty of harming the galactic community. When the Hollow Sun attacked, I fought for the lives of everyone in that station, human and alien alike. I ask you to judge me by my actions, not by your fear of what I might be. The chamber erupted in argument. Some demanded her execution, others called for imprisonment. A few suggested she should be handed over to human authorities for study. Then a voice cut through the noise. I would like to speak. Commander Kethral rose from his seat in the military section. The chamber fell silent. Kethral was known throughout the council as a voice of reason, a warrior who valued honor above politics. I have been investigating this human since her arrival at the academy, he said. I expected to find evidence of a threat. Instead, I found something that made me reconsider everything I believed about humans. He activated his own holographic display. This is the Battle of Vexar Prime, during the Tyraxian War. My people were losing. Our fleet was destroyed. Our ground forces were surrounded. We had accepted that we would die, that our homeworld would fall. The images showed a desperate battle. Alien soldiers fighting against overwhelming odds. Ships burning in orbit. Then the humans came. They were not asked to come. They were not paid. They were volunteers from human colonies near the conflict zone. Flying ships held together with tape and prayer. They had no military training, no advanced weapons, no strategic value. Kethral's voice grew quiet. They flew into the heart of the enemy fleet and broke their formation. They landed on our planet and reinforced our lines. 312 human volunteers died in the first hour of fighting. They kept coming. They kept fighting. And because of them, my people survived. He turned to face Emma. Humans are not primitive. They are terrifying. They do not know when to quit. They do not accept impossible odds. They look at situations that would make any reasonable species surrender. And they ask how they can win anyway. He turned back to the council. This girl saved 43 lives at the academy. She fought alone against a terrorist army and won. She did this not for her own people, but for everyone. If this is what humans are capable of, then we should not be afraid of them. We should be grateful that they are on our side. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Finally, the Chancellor spoke. A vote will be taken. Those in favor of releasing the human Emma Cole and granting her full academic standing at the Kaldarian Institute. Hands rose across the chamber. Slowly at first, then faster. Species that had never agreed on anything found themselves united by a single truth. This human had earned her place. The vote was narrow, but it passed. The chains fell from Emma's wrists. She stood on the platform, surrounded by beings who had called her species primitive. And she did not cry. She did not celebrate. She simply nodded, as if this was what she had expected all along. In the crowd, a human woman watched with tears in her eyes. Her name was Grace Holloway, the human ambassador to the Galactic Council. She had fought for Emma's freedom with every tool at her disposal. Now she watched the girl walk free and knew that something had changed. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. As Emma left the chamber, Kethral fell into step beside her. "Thank you," she said. "Do not thank me. I spoke the truth. What you do with your freedom is up to you." Emma nodded. "I know exactly what I am going to do. I am going back to the academy. I am going to learn everything I can. And when the time comes, I am going to show the galaxy what humans are truly capable of." Kethral smiled. It was a rare expression for his species. "I look forward to seeing that," he said. Emma returned to the Caldarian Institute on a bright morning when the dying star cast long shadows across the station's towers. She arrived on an official council transport this time, not a cargo shuttle. Students lined the docking bay to watch her disembark. The girl who had arrived months ago as a quiet orphan from a mining colony now walked through the corridors as something else entirely. She was not hiding anymore. Her gray eyes met the stares of alien students without flinching. Her posture held the confidence of someone who had faced the Galactic Council and walked away free. Shvara was waiting outside their quarters. "I saved your things," the Veltraxian said. "Some students wanted to take your books. I convinced them otherwise." Emma looked at her former roommate. Shvara stood taller than before. Her forearms crossed over her chest. But there was no hostility in her black eyes anymore. Something had changed. "Thank you," Emma said. Shvara nodded. "I watched the council broadcast. Everyone did. What you said about humans, about survival, about what your species endures." She paused, struggling to find words. "I thought humans were weak. I was wrong." "You were not wrong. We are weak compared to most species. We are slower, weaker, shorter-lived. But we do not let that stop us." Shvara stepped aside to let Emma enter. "I understand now. That is what makes you dangerous." Their room looked the same as before. 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 storage units. Emma set her bag down and ran her fingers across the worn fabric. This small space had become something like home. "I owe you an apology," Shvara continued. "I treated you badly when you arrived. I judged you by your species instead of your character. You did what everyone expected you to do. I hold no anger about it." "Then perhaps we can start again?" Shvara extended one of her upper hands in the human gesture of greeting. "I am Shvara of the 3rd House of Veltrax. I would be honored to call you a friend." Emma took her hand and shook it. "Emma Cole. Just Emma." "And yes, I would like that." The weeks that followed were different from before. Students who had once ignored Emma now sought her out. They asked questions about human history, human tactics, human philosophy. She answered when she could, and admitted ignorance when she could not. Her honesty earned her more respect than any boast could have. Professor Vin took her as his personal apprentice. He was fascinated by the tactical methods she had displayed during the siege trial and the Hollow Sun attack. They spent hours in his study, discussing strategies from wars that had ended before humans existed. "Your mind works differently than any student I have trained," Vin told her one evening. "You see connections that others miss. You think in patterns that should not exist in a species so young." "I was trained to think this way," Emma admitted. "But I do not know who trained my trainers. The ship I was found on held knowledge that no one has been able to explain." "After," Veen nodded slowly. "There are powers in this galaxy older than memory. Perhaps one of them took an interest in your species. Perhaps they saw potential that others missed. Or perhaps humans simply figured it out ourselves. We are good at that." Vin laughed, a rare sound from the ancient instructor. "Perhaps so. Never let anyone tell you that youth is a weakness, Emma Cole. Sometimes fresh eyes see truths that old ones have forgotten." Ben Torres remained her closest friend. He visited her quarters every evening, bringing news from across the station. His easy humor and honest kindness made the difficult days easier to bear. "You know everyone is terrified of you now," he said one night, lounging on her bed while she studied at her desk. "I know. Does that bother you?" Emma considered the question. I did not come here to be feared. I came to learn. Fear makes learning difficult. Fear can also keep people safe. Maybe being a little scared of you is good for them. Ben grinned. Keeps them from being stupid. That is a strange kind of wisdom. I am a strange kind of person. Emma smiled. Ben had a talent for making her smile. It was a gift she did not take for granted. But beneath the routine of classes and study, shadows were gathering. Emma received reports through channels that officially did not exist. The Hollow Sun attack had not been random. It was part of a larger pattern. Terrorist factions across the galaxy were mobilizing. Ancient weapons were being unearthed from forgotten battlefields. Something was stirring at the edges of known space. Commander Kethril visited her in the 3rd month after her return. He arrived unannounced, his presence causing whispers among the students who saw him. "Walk with me," he said. They walked through the Academy's arboretum, a garden of plants from 100 worlds. Kethril spoke quietly. His words meant only for her ears. The Council has received reports from the outer territories. Ships have gone missing. Colonies have fallen silent. Scouts who investigate do not return. The Hollow Sun? No. Something else. Something older. Kethril stopped beside a tree that had grown for 10,000 years. There are legends among my people of beings who existed before the current galactic order. They did not die. They merely slept. Some believe they are waking now. Emma felt a chill run through her. She thought of the ship she had been found on. The impossible technology. The empty corridors that had once held something she could not remember. Why tell me this? Because you may be connected to it somehow. And because humanity will be needed in the wars to come. Kethril turned to face her. Your species fights when others surrender. You survive when others die. If these ancient powers truly are returning, the galaxy will need humans at its side. We are a young species. We barely understand the universe. Youth means you have not learned to accept defeat. That may be the most valuable quality in existence. Kethril left without saying goodbye. Emma stood alone in the arboretum, surrounded by plants older than human civilization, and thought about what was coming. That night, she received a coded message. It came through a channel that should have been impossible to access, using encryption that only a handful of people in the galaxy could break. The message was from Earth. We know where you are. We know what you have done. We are not angry. We are proud. The Council is forming. The preparations are beginning. When you are ready, we will need you. Until then, learn everything you can. The galaxy has no idea what is coming, but we do, and we are ready. Emma read the message 3 times before deleting it. She thought about the soldiers who had trained her, the scientists who had studied her, the leaders who had planned for a future they might not live to see. They had built her to be a weapon, but they had also built her to be a symbol. Humanity was not primitive. Humanity was patient. And when the time came, the galaxy would learn what patience could achieve. She walked to the observation deck on the highest level of the Academy. Through the transparent walls, she could see the dying star casting red light across the void. Somewhere beyond that light, Earth's sun was burning. Somewhere beyond that, ancient powers were stirring. Ben found her there an hour later. He stood beside her without speaking, watching the stars. "What are you thinking?" he asked finally. Emma turned to look at him. For the first time since her arrival at the Academy, her face held no mask. Her gray eyes showed everything she felt. Hope, fear, determination, and something that might have been love for the species she had been born to serve. "I am thinking that the galaxy has no idea what is coming," she said quietly. "And when they finally understand what humanity is capable of, they will not fear us." "What will they do?" Emma smiled. It was a warrior's smile, fierce and bright. "They will be grateful that we are on their side." The stars shimmered in silence. The dying sun burned at the heart of the Academy. And somewhere in the vast darkness between worlds, something ancient began to wake. Emma Cole, the girl who had arrived as no one and become a legend, watched the void and waited. The beginning was over. The true story was about to start, and humanity, as always, was ready.